I'll speak. I guess to the first question, I don't even know where to begin when we speak about, just the immersion program in itself. I went twice, right? My doctoral project was based on the program that we did go when we went back the second time around, which was, just the menstrual hygiene management and its impact on young girls in Kenya, and especially on like their academics and just overall self-esteem and self-efficacy. And that was an important project. And for me, I feel like I was so inspired by the project that I started my own NGO, Toward the Light Foundation, and we continue the work in Nigeria, and it's been very impactful when it comes to when I think about just like both Kenya experiences. I think we can't separate that from the work that we do now. Even though I'm doing neuropsych testing at this time, I still think about those experiences and how I interact with the clients that are coming in. Culture is such a big part of it, and we can't separate that from anything. But going to those experiences will help you kind of conceptualize cases in a different way.
When I was there, we were teaching in we were testing out a curriculum. We were doing clean water study. In my group, I was teaching an 8th grade class. It was so difficult for the young people to access the language to talk about their individual strengths. Somehow we made a pivot and we started focusing on their strength within the collective. So we saw like in real time how these brilliant young people were able to transition to talking about not their individual strengths, but their strengths as they related to the greater good. And that completely altered the way that I thought about my own curriculum development, and even my work, just being more African centered in my approach to the field, to the work that I do with people of color. It's really impacted the way that I deliver the work. And conceptualize the world. It impacted my worldview as a whole. There was one moment that really changed the experience for me. It was when Liz was, Meg and I were just getting introduced to our class, and Liz was there. And I was like, whoa, this classroom is so small. We had like 40 kids in like a box. And I remember being like, this is the classroom. And she said, yeah, she was like, yes, aren't we so blessed? Aren't we so fortunate? So it just changed my whole outlook on like situation. And it just made me think about power and privilege differently.
Thank you for saying that, Kwame, because when I just going off of what you just said, it made me reflect on things differently, if that makes sense. Because I grew up in Nigeria and then came to America. But once you come here at such a young age, there's a tendency to want to just adapt to this culture and kind of just, those that neglect or forget the past. And I think that's essentially what happened to me. Being back in Kenya, I think it made me just, reflect on my childhood. And it brought back those memories. Like I was in a classroom just like this, right? And I was in a classroom with so many kids just like this. And but I can be here now. And there was a moment that occurred, I believe, when we were in a classroom, and I think I shared this with you, Kwame, where it was Ev and I that were teaching a class. We were teaching a strength-based curriculum, and we had the students just ask us questions. And one of the questions that came up was along the lines of feeling it started a dialogue around their feelings about, white people. Right. And feeling like white people were superior to Black people. And I believe that moment created an opportunity for Ev and I to we held hands and told them that she and I are equals. We're here in the same capacity and we're here to teach you. And it created a dialogue around the future and what they can do. And I think that changed their mindset and their ideology on, just life and how they view different cultures. It was a teaching moment, but it was also a learning moment for me.
One theme that I heard, which was so important, I think David touched on it also from both your stories, was that, kind of that need to pivot. I think, you both use that word, that you needed to have, a structure and a curriculum, but at the same time, you needed to be able to let it go. So that experience that you could be so effective and so transformational, and your stories are amazing. But it's because that you were able to kind of let everything you knew go through you, and you really showed up. So I just love that, I guess you could certainly learn that in many places, in many different ways, but I love that you both learned it there.
Yeah, it's different. It was a different experience. Like I thought I was flexible and adaptable and eclectic in my approaches and had a big toolkit. And getting there and having that show up and completely being stripped of self. I tell people to this day, people ask me what my favorite trip was of all time. I was like, I could tell you what the most meaningful and impactful one was. It's this.
And I agree. I think for me, it forced me to kind of like face my past. Essentially, up until that point, there were moments where I just could not reflect on where I came from, and being able to speak to the kids one-on-one, and I think they resonated with me because they like, I don't know, every country in most countries in Africa know Nigeria to be the big one, and so being able to relate to the kids on that level and have them ask questions, and I think explaining to them that this is where I came from here. And so there was one of the girls that came to me and spoke extensively, and it opened her mind and broadened her perspective on what she can attain in her life. And I think it was just a limited view of what the world is, and just being exposed to different people and different curriculum, I think really changed their mindset and their ideology in life.